Imagine waking up one day and everything you once thought was impossible becomes possible. The very pain that once brought you to your knees becomes the reason you rise stronger. The door you thought was shut forever suddenly opens with ease. The burden that weighed on your heart for years lifts in a moment you never expected. That's what happens when the help of Allah enters your life. No matter how broken, how lost, how burdened, or how far you think you've gone, remember, Allah can change everything in your life. Not some things, not most things, everything. Even a broken heart is never a sign that you are forgotten. In fact, it may just be the strongest proof that you are being looked after with the greatest love and wisdom. Sometimes it is through the cracks of a shattered heart that the light of guidance begins to enter. When things go completely against your expectations, when the very people you counted on the most turn away, when the comfort you built your life around is snatched away in an instant, it is not the end. Rather, it is the beginning of something beautiful that is yet to unfold. A believer understands that the breaking of the heart is not a destruction, it is often a divine construction, a rebuilding of the soul. A reshaping of the journey, a redirection away from what would harm you toward what will elevate you. There are moments in life where you will feel like everything is falling apart, nothing makes sense. You cry, not because you're weak, but because something deep inside you aches for answers, for peace, for relief. You look around and wonder why certain people walked away. Why did someone you trusted so deeply betray you? Why did something you worked so hard for slip through your fingers? And why does it feel like your du'as are not being answered? But what if in reality they are being answered in the most merciful way? What if the denial you felt was actually protection? What if that heartbreak was a gift disguised in pain? Many times, the most difficult seasons of life are those that shape you for what's to come. When your heart breaks, you begin to see more clearly. You start turning back. You begin asking more sincerely. You no longer rely on yourself or the people around you. You rely only on Allah. And that shift is not minor. It is massive. It transforms who you are. It builds you. It awakens your soul to the reality of this world. That nothing here is permanent. That everything here is a test. That hearts are not meant to find eternal peace in creation, but in the Creator alone. Sometimes you may love someone deeply and they hurt you in ways you never imagined. You trusted them, made dua for them, dreamed of a future with them, and suddenly it's all gone. It feels like betrayal, like loss, like confusion. But later you will understand. You will understand that some hearts are removed from your life because Allah knows they would have distracted you from your purpose. He removes people not because you are unworthy, but because what He wants to give you requires space, emotional space, mental space, spiritual space. And sometimes that space only comes when the heart breaks. There will be times when you lose things you prayed hard to keep. And in those moments you may feel like giving up, but the believer never gives up. Because the believer understands that unanswered du'as are not rejections, they are redirections, they are doors being closed because better ones are about to open. What if the job you didn't get would have taken you far from your faith? What if the friend you lost was pulling you towards sin? What if the delay in your plans was actually a pause to protect your heart from greater pain? These are questions that don't have immediate answers, but with time, Allah reveals the wisdom, and when He does, you will thank Him for every tear you once cried. The world teaches us that strength is in never falling, but faith teaches us that strength is in rising after every fall, in still making dua when it seems hopeless, in still believing when everything feels broken. The beauty of this faith is that even when your heart is shattered into pieces, those very pieces become more attached to the one who never breaks His promises. That's why the pain you experience in heartbreak often brings you closer to Allah than any moment of comfort ever could, because in comfort we forget, in ease we become distant. But in pain we remember, we return, we cry out sincerely, and those cries are more beloved to Allah than we can ever imagine. There is a sweetness that only comes after sabr. There is a light that only appears after darkness. There is a calm that only arrives after the storm has passed. And often you realize that the very thing that broke you was what saved you. You look back at the times you thought you wouldn't survive and you'll smile. Not because it wasn't painful, but because you saw how Allah carried you through it. You saw how He replaced your loss with better. You saw how He healed your heart when you thought it was beyond repair. One sincere dua can do what a lifetime of planning cannot. We live in a world that teaches us to rely on effort, on strategy, on preparation, and while all of that is important, we must never forget who truly controls outcomes. You could spend years studying, working, planning, networking, and yet one sincere dua made in the depth of the night could open a door so big that all your planning would pale in comparison. Why? Because Allah responds not based on the quantity of your effort, but the sincerity of your heart. Sometimes you wonder how things will work out. You're facing a mountain of problems, financial pressure, broken relationships, uncertainty in your career, pain in your heart. You try everything. You knock on every door. You speak to everyone who might help, but still nothing changes. That's when you're meant to pause, fall into sujood and raise your hands with the full certainty that the one you're speaking to owns all solutions. Dua isn't a last resort. It is the most powerful tool you have. It's not a backup plan, it's the main plan. When you call out to Allah with a heart full of humility, full of sincerity, full of dependence, know that your words are not going unheard. They may not be answered in the way you expect, but they will be answered in the way that's best for you. Sometimes what you ask for is not what you need, but Allah knows. And He gives based on what will bring you closer to Him, what will cleanse your heart, and what will elevate your rank in both worlds. The beauty of dua is that it doesn't require perfection. You don't need to have everything figured out before you ask. You don't need to be sinless. You don't need fancy words. You just need a heart that knows who it's speaking to. A heart that says, Ya Allah, I can't do this without you. I've tried and I'm tired. Take over. And when you say that with sincerity, you'll begin to see changes not always around you, but within you. And that internal shift is where true peace begins. Many people make dua and then continue to worry. They continue to stress. But if you've truly handed over your affairs to Allah, then let go. Stop checking the door every hour. Stop panicking over the details. Just keep making dua, keep trying. But do it with a heart that trusts the one you're asking. Because if you don't trust, you're not truly submitting. And submission is the essence of faith. Even in the moments where you feel like your du'as are not working, keep going, keep asking, because every dua you make is recorded, every tear you shed is counted, and every time you raise your hands, angels are witnessing it. And when Allah responds, He responds in ways that leave you speechless. A job comes out of nowhere. A heart you thought would never heal becomes your source of peace. A door you didn't even know existed opens wide. That is the power of dua. And when you don't know what to say, just speak from your heart. Sometimes the most powerful dua is not a long list, it's a short whisper filled with pain and hope. Ya Allah, help me. Ya Allah, guide me. Ya Allah, I don't know what to do. That honesty, that vulnerability is what makes a dua beautiful. Because you are speaking to the one who already knows everything you're going through, but He loves when you call out to Him. There are moments in life where you may feel surrounded. Nothing makes sense. You're overwhelmed. But even then, know this, you are one dua away from a miracle. You are one sincere moment with Allah away from a breakthrough. Never underestimate what He can do. Don't measure your chances based on worldly logic. Measure them based on the power of the one who created the world. He doesn't need means. He doesn't need time. He doesn't need explanations. He just says, be, and it is. So when your heart is heavy, when your plans fall apart, when you feel like giving up, pause, raise your hands, pour your heart out. Because what dua does is that it doesn't just change your situation, it changes you. It fills you with hope. It realigns your perspective. It strengthens your connection with the one who never fails. And sometimes, even if the external doesn't change immediately, the internal strength you gain through dua is far more valuable. The world tells you to hustle harder, but your faith tells you to trust deeper, to rely more, to believe that the unseen help of Allah can reach you faster than any means you run after. So don't just make dua when you're desperate, make it when you're happy, when you're grateful, when things are going well, because dua isn't just for seeking change, it's for maintaining peace. It's for anchoring your heart, it's for reminding yourself that no matter what happens, you are never alone. You may want something so desperately and yet it continues to be delayed. You cry about it, you make dua constantly, you seek advice, and still the answer seems far away. It's in those moments that you might begin to question, why hasn't it happened yet? What more can I do? But what you may not realize is that the delay is not because you are not worthy. It's not because you are being ignored, it's because your heart is still being prepared. You see, before something is granted to you, your intention has to be purified. Your sincerity has to be tested. Your focus has to be redirected. Sometimes the delay is actually the mercy that saves you from destruction. If you were given what you asked for too early, it may have destroyed your relationship with Allah. It may have fed your ego. It may have distracted you from your purpose. And because your Lord loves you, He holds it back until you are ready. You might think you're ready now, but only Allah knows what truly lies within your heart. Only He knows whether that blessing you seek will elevate you or bring arrogance, whether it will help you or pull you away from your values. That is why He holds it back, not to punish you, but to protect you. And while you are waiting, something beautiful begins to happen. You start to reflect more, you begin to make dua with more sincerity. You start turning inward, you begin checking your intentions. You start asking yourself, am I seeking this for the sake of Allah? Will I still be grateful if I don't get it? Will I still worship Him with love if the answer is no? And those questions cleanse you from the inside out. They make your relationship with Allah stronger than the thing you're asking for. There are people who pray for marriage and yet remain unmarried for years. There are others who beg for children but continue waiting. Some long for success, for healing, for escape from debt, for ease in exams, for better jobs, and the delay aches. But during that waiting, something deep is happening inside them. They begin to turn their reliance away from people and toward their Creator. They start focusing less on the gift and more on the giver. And that is where true growth begins. Because once your intention is clean, once your reliance is solely on Him, once your trust is unshakable, that is when He gives. And when He gives, it will come in a way that leaves you in awe. Think about it. Sometimes you receive something after years of waiting and it's so perfect that you finally understand why the wait was necessary. You realize, had you been given what you asked for at the time you asked, it wouldn't have been right. You weren't spiritually ready. You weren't emotionally grounded. Your relationship with Allah wasn't as solid. But now that you've grown through the delay, the gift itself becomes a means of gratitude, not distraction. The same thing that could have ruined you now elevates you. The delay purified your heart, so the gift wouldn't damage your soul. So don't be angry when your dua isn't answered immediately. Don't think you're being neglected. Know that your Creator is the most wise. He knows exactly when and how to give. He knows which blessing will bring you closer and which will make you forget. He sees what you do not see. While you're focused on the timing, He's focused on your transformation. He's nurturing your soul through patience. He's preparing you for something far greater than what you imagined. And if you were to receive everything you wanted right now, it may make your heart heedless. So He delays not because you don't deserve it, but because you deserve better than what you're asking for. And sometimes while you are waiting for one door to open, another door is already being prepared. A door that will be better, wider, brighter. You may not even know it exists yet. But your Creator is always working behind the scenes. When the timing is right and when your soul is ready, He will open that door. And not only will He open it, He will open it with ease, with blessings, with barakah. And you'll realize that the delay was never a denial. It was a divine pause filled with mercy. You keep knocking on the same door, begging for it to open. You cry in sujood, you beg in your du'as, and still it stays shut. But what if that door is too small for you? What if that door leads to something that won't benefit you in the long run? What if while you are knocking on a door that you think will bring you peace, your Creator is preparing to open a palace for you instead? You see, we often become obsessed with what we want. We become so fixed on a particular outcome, a certain person, a specific job, a particular opportunity, but our knowledge is limited. We only see what's right in front of us, and even that we barely understand. But the one who created us, who controls the hearts of people, who owns every opportunity and every outcome, He sees the full picture. He knows what lies ahead. And sometimes in His love for you, He closes a small door because He is about to open something far greater. We get disappointed when our plans fail, when the person we wanted to marry says no, when the company we dreamed of working for rejects us, when the project we poured our energy into doesn't succeed. But what if that failure is a sign of something better coming? What if that heartbreak is actually redirection? Sometimes the door we're chasing is not meant for us not because we're not good enough, but because Allah has something so much better lined up. And had we gotten what we wanted, we might have settled. We might have accepted less than what we were created for. But in His mercy, He saves us from that. And even though it hurts in the moment, one day we'll look back and understand the wisdom. Think of the times in your life when things didn't go your way. You were devastated, you questioned, you cried. But now, years later, you can see how those very moments shaped you. How they made you stronger. How they guided you toward better choices. How they taught you resilience. That's the thing about life, it doesn't always make sense while you're going through it. But when you look back, you start to understand how everything was part of a bigger plan. And had even one thing been different, you wouldn't be where you are today. That is the beauty of divine wisdom. Never become so fixated on a particular outcome that you become blind to other possibilities. Sometimes we are so obsessed with our own plan that we forget who the planner is. We cling to one door, ignoring the palace that's being prepared behind us. But when we start trusting, truly trusting, that what is meant for us will never miss us, and what misses us was never meant for us, that's when we find peace. That's when we stop forcing things. That's when we begin to let go and let Allah take over. And letting go doesn't mean you stop trying. It doesn't mean you become passive. It means you put in your effort, you make your dua, and then you release your attachment to the result. You stop worshipping the outcome and start worshipping the one who decides the outcome. That is real tawakkul. That is real submission. And it's in that submission that hearts find peace. Because you begin to understand that whatever is happening in your life, whether it's joy or pain, ease or hardship, it is happening for a reason. And that reason is always rooted in mercy. Sometimes the palace you're being prepared for is not material, it's emotional, spiritual, eternal. While you're begging for a certain worldly success, Allah is preparing to grant you inner peace, deeper faith, stronger character, and those things, though invisible, are priceless because they last, they remain, they elevate you in both worlds. And once you have them, you're able to handle every other blessing with wisdom, with humility, with gratitude. When a door stays closed, don't keep banging on it so loudly that you can't hear the knock of the better one opening behind you. Sometimes silence is what reveals direction. Step back, reflect, ask Allah to guide you to what is best. Ask Him to make you content with His decision and trust that His decision is better than yours, even when it feels like loss. We are travelers in this life. Every moment is a step, every test is a checkpoint, and every closed door is a signpost. Some will say, turn back. Others will say, not yet. And others will eventually swing open when you're ready. But don't let your heart become bitter. Don't let your soul give up. Keep walking, keep making dua, keep your eyes on the one who knows where each path leads. Because He is the one who opens when it's time, and when He opens, it will be beautiful. Not just because of what you receive, but because of who you become in the process. Sometimes we hold on so tightly to things, thinking they are ours forever. We get attached to people, to possessions, to plans, to dreams, and we start believing that they define us. We think if we lose them, we lose everything. But the truth is, what you lost was never truly yours. And what is meant for you will never pass you by. This is a reality that every believer will come to face in life. And it's not easy. Losing something or someone you love is one of the most painful experiences you will ever go through. But that pain is often the very doorway to your deepest connection with your Creator. When you lose what you once thought you could never live without, and yet you continue to live, continue to breathe, continue to pray, that's when you start to discover a strength that was placed inside you all along. That strength comes from your reliance on the one who never leaves. There are times when you feel like your heart is breaking into pieces. You ask, why did this happen? I loved them so much. I trusted them so deeply. I thought this job was my future. I thought this friendship was lifelong. And suddenly it's gone. The people you made dua for have walked away. The opportunities you chased after are no longer in reach. The home you built with dreams and hopes is no longer a shelter. But in those moments you are being taught one of the most powerful lessons in faith. You are being reminded that your heart should never be fully attached to anything in this world. Because anything in this world can be taken away. Everything here is temporary, and only the one who gave it to you in the first place remains. You see, when you lose something that is not written for you, it may hurt at first. But that pain will eventually teach you that your worth was never tied to that thing. You were still valuable before it came. And you are still valuable after it's gone. The love of a person, the praise of a group, the status of a job, the comfort of wealth, none of these things define your success. None of them guarantee your peace. Only the pleasure of your Creator brings lasting tranquility. And when He gives, no one can take it away. When He grants peace, even the loudest chaos around you cannot disturb it. When He opens your heart, even the tightest situation feels light. That is the power of connection with Him. When we say that what Allah gives will never leave you, we don't just mean material things. We're talking about the real gifts. The gift of Iman, the gift of sincerity, the gift of peace, the gift of being content even in loss. Those are the treasures that cannot be taken away by anyone. And the more you focus on building your relationship with your Creator, the more you begin to experience these gifts. You begin to detach from what is not meant to stay and attach your heart to the one who is everlasting. That detachment doesn't mean you stop loving people or stop working hard. It simply means you place your hope where it belongs. You give your best in every relationship, in every job, in every opportunity, but your heart remains anchored in the one who created you. When someone walks away from your life, don't chase them endlessly. If they were written for you, they would have stayed. If they were good for your soul, their presence would bring you closer to peace, not drag you into anxiety. Sometimes the person who left was taking away your joy, even if you were too attached to see it. Sometimes the silence of a closed door is louder than the noise of 1,000 distractions. And in that silence, you will hear your own heart again. You will hear your need for healing, your need for truth, your need for spiritual clarity, and you will come to understand that not every loss is a punishment. Some losses are protection. When a blessing is written for you, it will come to you no matter what. You could be at the lowest point in your life and that blessing will find you. You may not even be looking for it, but it will reach you. And when something is not written for you, you could chase it with all your strength, but it will slip through your hands. That's not failure, that's divine wisdom. Your Creator knows what is best for you, and He knows when the right time is. So instead of exhausting yourself, chasing what is not meant for you, focus on preparing your heart for what is. Focus on improving yourself, so that when the blessing does come, you are ready to receive it with gratitude and responsibility. Sometimes we ask, why did they hurt me? Why did they lie? Why did they change? And we carry the weight of that betrayal on our shoulders for years. But healing begins when we understand that people change, but Allah never changes. People may forget their promises, but He never forgets His. People may hurt you when you least expect it, but He is always near, always watching, always just. And sometimes He allows certain people to enter your life just to teach you how not to be. Just to show you what to avoid, just to strengthen you through experience. And once the lesson is learned, the test ends, but the healing begins. There is a kind of peace that only comes when your heart accepts that some things are not yours to hold, that some people are not yours to keep, that some plans are not yours to live out. And once you accept that, your heart opens to receive what is truly meant for you. You stop fighting against reality. You stop blaming yourself for what you couldn't control. And you start trusting that the one who created you knows exactly what your soul needs. Your situation doesn't need to change first, your heart does. This is a truth that many overlook. We often think that if our surroundings improve, we will feel better. If the problems disappear, we will be happy. If people treat us differently, we will feel valued. But true change begins inside. It begins when your heart is aligned with your purpose. When your priorities shift from pleasing people to pleasing the Creator. When your eyes stop chasing this world and your soul starts yearning for the hereafter, that's when transformation begins. That's when the storms outside you lose their power to shake you, because the peace within you is stronger. You can have everything externally, wealth, success, fame, relationships, but if your heart is empty, nothing will satisfy you. And you can have very little in this world, but if your heart is filled with the remembrance of Allah, you will feel richer than kings. Because true richness is not in the hands, it's in the soul. And when the heart is purified, content and connected, the world around you begins to reflect that light. You begin to see challenges as opportunities. You begin to see pain as growth. You begin to see every hardship as a bridge towards something better. That's why focusing on changing your external situation while ignoring your internal state is like repainting a cracked wall without fixing the foundation. It may look good for a while, but it will collapse eventually. So focus on the heart. Begin with sincerity. Begin with repentance. Begin with gratitude. Begin with asking yourself, what is the purpose of all this? What is Allah teaching me through this situation? How can I draw closer to Him right now? These are the questions that shift your perspective. These are the reflections that bring clarity. Many people want their problems to disappear, but they don't want to change their habits. They want better relationships, but they don't want to improve their character. They want barakah in their wealth, but they don't want to purify their earnings. They want peace in their homes, but they don't want to purify their tongues. It's easy to blame the outside world, but the real work begins within. When you fix your heart, everything else begins to fall into place. Changing your heart doesn't mean you become perfect. It means you become sincere. You become aware of your shortcomings and committed to growth. You stop pretending. You stop comparing. You stop living for the approval of others. And you start seeking only the pleasure of the one who gave you life. That shift is powerful. It removes the weight of expectations. It frees you from the chains of people's opinions. And it allows you to live with authenticity, with purpose, with light. And when your heart changes, your du'as change, you stop begging for specific outcomes and start asking for what's best. You stop asking only for what you want and begin asking for what will bring you closer to Jannah. You start making dua not just for things to happen, but for your heart to be content whether they happen or not. That is a sign of maturity in faith. That is a sign of spiritual growth. When your heart changes, even the way you respond to difficulty changes. You stop seeing problems as punishments and start seeing them as purification. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, guide me through this. You stop running from tests and start facing them with sabr and trust. That shift doesn't remove the pain, but it gives the pain purpose. And when pain has purpose, it becomes a path, not a prison. This is why we are reminded again and again in the Qur'an that Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Because internal change is the foundation of external success. A heart that is upright will lead to words that are truthful, actions that are noble, and decisions that are wise. And when the heart is corrupt, even the most perfect situation will bring chaos. That's why your focus should never be only on fixing the world around you. Your first responsibility is to fix the world within you. So when you're overwhelmed, say, Ya Allah, I know you can change everything, change my situation, change my heart, change my future, and say it with full certainty. Say it knowing that no door is truly locked when Allah is the one with the keys. Say it knowing that He has healed hearts harder than yours. He has lifted people from situations worse than yours. He has written stories of success after decades of despair, and He can do it for you too. Just don't give up. Keep making that dua, keep praying, keep trusting. Even if nothing seems to be moving, believe that Allah is working behind the scenes. And soon, very soon, what you thought was impossible will become part of your reality. Because when Allah decides to change your life, nothing and no one can stop it.
What role does dua play in my life and yours if Allah has already predestined things? Good question. right? Why should I even ask Allah? It's already predestined. Well, I tell you, the hadith says one thing that can move your predestined matters to a degree. Allah Almighty created us. He has already predestined several things about us in a little bit of detail. Some of the finer details comes about on a yearly basis, some of it on a daily basis, but the general date of birth, date of death, whether you are fortunate or unfortunate, is destined by Allah. And they say this is based on certain things and factors. Allah knows about the future because the knowledge of Allah is unique, unlike yours and mine. What will happen in the future, Allah knows exactly how it will pan out. He knows exactly what choices people will make. That's something tremendous and more mind-boggling than all of that, is Allah knows what will not happen in the future and is not going to happen in the future. If it were to happen, how it would have happened. Subhanallah, that is mind-boggling. This world is so finite, and Allah is infinite. This world is so limited. Allah is unless. Imagine Allah knows what is never going to happen if it had happened, how it would have happened. Look at Surah Al-Kahf when the story of Al-Qadeer is mentioned towards the end of the 15th part of the Qur'an. And Allah Almighty says very beautifully that this man who accompanied Musa alayhi salam, or whom accompanied, he did a few things that didn't make sense to the Prophet. Musa, or Moses, may peace be upon him. And later on he explained that, look, I did this because if I did not do this, then this was going to happen. So Allah already inspired me or instructed me in a certain way to do this. What does that mean? That means what was never going to happen, had it happened? Allah knows how it would have happened. You had a child. May Allah grant us all goodness in children. May Allah bless those without children with children. And may Allah bless those who have children, such that the children are the coolness of their eyes. It's a tough one living in today's world with all the different difficulties, hardships that people face. It's not easy, but Allah Almighty is great. So we've got to continue trying, and we've got to continue having hope and calling out to Allah. May Allah accept out to us and fulfill all our halal needs. Ameen.